What's going on, Flock? Happy Wednesday. It is 12:08 Eastern in the afternoon on the 9th of October. It's week 6 of this NFL season. The Ravens and Commanders will battle it out for Maryland coming up on Sunday inside the bank. Looking forward to that. Today's live stream is brought to you by one of this month's small business Patreon title sponsors, our friend, our guy, Sharu Hashmi. We appreciate you, Sharu. And we've got a lot to get to today in this Ravens lunch hour live stream. I'm Bobby Trossett, as always, joined alongside Sarah Ellison. I couldn't help but notice, Sarah, I'm getting called out. Despite this guy in the live chat not wanting us to call attention, and I say us, all of his immediate family, to his 62nd birthday, which he celebrated yesterday. Here he is in the live chat, Francis Trossett, my father, who turned 62 years young yesterday, is saying that he hopes my eldest child gives his old man a belated shout out for his birthday on today's show. Despite telling everybody that he's going MIA yesterday, not wanting any kind of contact, not answering phone calls, none of this, because he's now Social Security eligible, right? He's upset about that. He's in denial about it, yet he wants me to tell thousands this morning. Well, you got your wish, Pops. Happy belated birthday to you.
I love it. It's like it's tough to be in a relationship with somebody like that who's like, no, don't make a big deal of it. And then you're like, okay. And then you're like, what the heck? I didn't mean not to make a big deal of it. Mr. Francis, happy birthday. I hope it is a great one. And hey, I know Bobby knows how to celebrate a birthday. So, I feel like you've had us back in the past for many birthdays and have done good stuff for him. But happy birthday.
He's already coming up with spontaneous last-minute plans. He wants to come to the Commanders game this weekend. He's looking at flights. He might be driving down. TJ's coming down from New York City. John's already in town as it is. And Asmodeus is saying, happy birthday, Daddy Trossett, for your protein shake needs. And Asmodeus, I hate to blow up his spot. That ain't in his diet. I wish it was in his diet, but it's not. Hint, hint, Dad. I hope you take strides forward in this 62nd year in the diet category. All right, I've roasted him enough here to kickstart our show. Thank you for being with us. Happy belated to Francis. And let's dive into the content because you see the title here. Is it happening again to the Ravens? Of course, much of their staff last year was poached, plucked, grabbed by folks that needed vacancies, right? Filled around the league. Mike McDonald, one of them. Anthony Weaver, another one of them. Denard Wilson, another. Who else am I missing? There were several. Denard, Mike,
all on the defensive side.
Weaver, there were.
Well, is it happening on the offensive side this time around is the question.
And that becomes the question, and that question at least arose yesterday. We'll tell you why in just a second. You have some content here in terms of what the scariest offense is, or the scariest team, or is it the scariest offense?
Scariest team in the AFC.
Okay. Kyle Van Noy had some things to say.
Yes, he did.
About Lamar Jackson and what he's seen from him in the last season and a half. Some film study from our friend Cole Jackson in terms of what's going on with the defense. Is it execution? Is it scheme? Is it play caller? Good stuff from Cole. Some early notes as we start to look ahead at Sunday, Commanders at Ravens, and many, many more, including an update on Baltimore's perceived interest on Devontae Adams. So without further ado, let's dive in. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler had this to say on SportsCenter yesterday, and you see the screenshot that I snagged. I was just minding my own business late afternoon on a Tuesday, and up pops Jeremy on the screen, who, in wake of Robert Saleh being fired in New York, was talking about potential future head candidates. We know they have elevated and promoted their defensive coordinator to serve as the interim head coach. But if things go south for them this year, which it very well could, even though they have a chance to play for first place coming up on Monday night in the division, hard to believe you can your coach, even though you have a chance to play for first place in the division through 6 weeks coming up on Monday night. But that was Woody Johnson's decision. And as you see on the screen, Jeremy named Todd Monken, Ravens offensive coordinator, as one of several names to keep in mind, or at least to think about, as far as the next head coach of the New York Jets, on a list that includes Bill Belichick, Detroit's Ben Johnson, Bobby Slowick, and others. But Todd is squarely involved in this conversation, according to Jeremy. Sarah?
Well, Jeremy has been wrong before. He's also been right before. So it's crazy. There's just so much coaching turnover, it feels like, year in and year out. And I mean, they're talking about just the Jets. They're bringing this up just within the Jets context, that obviously they have an interim head coach. That interim head coach will try to be like the Raiders head coach who was interim, and then he's like, "Nah, no, I'm not. I'm permanent." So I'm sure he'd like to be permanent, but they were saying that the Jets, because they've been fine on defense over the years, and it's been on offense where they just haven't been able to get over the hump, whether it's with a number 2 overall draft pick with the quarterback or Aaron Rodgers, they just haven't been able to get things together. And so they were asking specifically, what about offensive guys?
Yeah.
Within 1 year, Bobby, 1 year, and it's of course with Lamar Jackson. What's Lamar's middle name again? Lamar.
Is
Oh,
it Demetrius?
it might be. It might be. But Lamar Jackson, so that helps things. But he's making a name for himself. Obviously, he was already in the NFL, was okay with the Browns, went to Georgia, helped that team win 2 national championships, comes back to the NFL to really empower Lamar. How much have we loved seeing the passing side of Lamar, which we always knew he was capable of? Todd Monken is the man that came in and said and had the vision of how to fully use a dual threat and not go too far one way or the other. Um, Although last year, some would argue, especially in the AFC Championship game, maybe we went too far with wanting to prove you can pass. But up to this point in this season, Bobby, Todd Monken, it took a couple games to figure out the identity with Derrick Henry. But since that week 3 game, this team has been a true, it's what people cliche say all the time. It is a true pick your poison. He is unlocking Lamar in both the pass game and the rushing game. This is the number 1 offense through 5 weeks of the season.
Yeah, and in other words, don't be surprised if this is the first of many rumblings as the months continue into the season and more head coaches slowly but surely. It's inevitable, right? They're going to get canned. That's just how it goes in this league. And so as that starts to happen, you're going to expect Todd to receive more and more attention. And this is early, right? It is very early, as you alluded to, in the New York process. If this guy Ulrich takes the Jets to the promised land, to the postseason, the response that Antonio Pierce got in Las Vegas last year would be similar. How can we can him? He showed something. There's a spark that this team plays for him. And so there's a lot left to be said in New York, but as of right now, Todd's drawing some interest. Why though? Let's dive into why. Ravens Nation Live gives you a good understanding here through 5 weeks. Here is where the Ravens offense ranks around the league. First in total yardage, first in yards per game, first, obviously, in rushing yards, first in rushing yards per game, obviously, first in yards per carry, second in points scored, second in points per game. And yeah, they seemingly are getting better and better by the week. So it goes without saying, Sarah, when you have these kind of numbers, albeit just 5 weeks, but coming off what you did last year and getting the interest that Todd did get, whether it was from the Chargers or maybe 1 or 2 other organizations last year, at least preliminary interviews, you get why there's some attention here.
Bobby, just so we have this out there, you know how the Ravens are number 2 in points scored and number 2 in points per game. Can I give you a guess of who number 1 is in those 2 categories?
Yeah, I looked into this earlier, so
Oh, you
I'll
did.
spoil it. But their opponent coming up this weekend, as far as as far as I know, the Washington Commanders.
The Washington Commanders, and by the way, it's not by much. It's not even by a full. Yeah, it's by a point in the 1.6 points are they ahead. Commanders averaging 31.0 points per game. Ravens 29.4. So how do you not get like your name brought up as a candidate for head coaching positions when you're putting this type of thing together?
Is that not good enough? Is that not enough for you guys? Austin Gale tracked that the Ravens have the best offense in the NFL by yards per play and EPA, which tracks efficiency per play. It's the best start through 5 weeks for the offense in the Lamar Jackson era in Baltimore by those same metrics. So they're humming right now. Obviously, we'll get to in just a bit why the defense needs to sort of hold serve, but they're getting contributions from so many different angles offensively. And it all starts with QB1. Kyle Van Noy is now doing a weekly podcast with Gerald McCoy on Yahoo Sports. It's McCoy and Van Noy. And I was listening at the gym this morning to the Ravens segment part of it. And KVN just gave some good insight here in terms of what he is witnessing from his teammate vantage point of the type of mode that Lamar's in right now.
Practice of what he's put in, the work that he's put in from the time that I've gotten here has been nothing but awesome. I've heard things in the past, but I can only talk about what I've watched, and what I have watched is somebody that has really matured in every angle and every aspect of football, whether it's spiritually, mentally, and physically. Like physically, his body is in great shape. He's throwing the ball really well, accurately. He's running the rock. He's breaking tackles, stiff arming, juking people, doing what he's always done, but it's still at a very, very high level. And then lastly, I think spiritually, just that mindset and competitiveness is on a different level right now. He knows what he wants, and he's going to do whatever and anything to get it. He doesn't care if you're with him or without you. He's like, I don't care if you're in my way. Even, like a play like he had where he had a QB run in the game, and Ronnie Stanley, we talked about it a little bit. I made fun of him where, Ronnie's coming around trying to read it, and he's like, nah, get out of my way and keep going. And then ended up getting the first down and then barking at Ronnie, and Ronnie's like, nah, so, we made fun of him on the plane for it, but it's just that spiritual competitiveness right now that he's got is on a different level.
And maybe part of why he was just named after Derek took this week's AFC Offensive Player of the Week is Lamar. After completion percentage of 61.9 on Sunday in Cincy, 348 yards through the air, 4 passing touchdowns, 55 rushing yards, and a passer rating of 119.9. Yeah, pretty easy choice there, but good stuff from KVN, Sarah, who apparently led the charge on Ronnie catching some strays on that plane ride back.
Absolutely. But what I want to focus on was I loved the term he had, like the spiritually competitiveness. And that obviously speaks to me, who shares a similar faith to Lamar Jackson. And it's so downplayed in the world today. But when you have a confidence from within, especially with somebody like Lamar, that is a divine confidence. It allows you to we always ask, like, how do these guys take all the noise from social media these days? How does Lamar, from the time he was in Pee-wee football and then high school, and his mom had to go tell the high school coaches, no, don't put him at wide receiver. How do you overcome all these quote unquote experts telling you to not play quarterback when you get to the NFL and try a different position? How do you stay true to yourself? It's because there's a calling from within, an adventure and a mission from within that is divine. And you only capture it through spirituality. That's the way, that's for him, that's his way of overcoming it. And that's what I think Kyle Van Noy is trying to get to here, is that everybody can excel and they may do it in different ways, but Lamar's way is he's saying it's this spiritual competitiveness that allows him to transcend what ordinary men see. And then he can see something bigger and greater. I love that. And that's why he can stay true to himself. And that's why he keeps his inner circle small. Like, he doesn't need to hear the voices from everybody else. It comes from within.
I appreciated the way KVN described it as well. And to kind of speaking to the other angles that this offense is getting contributions from, how about on the right-hand side of the line? The last couple of weeks, Roger Rosengarten with Patrick McCary filling in at left guard for Andrew Voorhees. He's answered the call, number 70 has. And Mike Renner put a nice little compilation here of some great plays that Roger Rosengarten has put together on tape, Sarah, that showcases his mobility, his strength at the point of attack, right? His ability to, adjust on the fly. And Mike tweeted, He's been a big part in their offensive explosion since entering the starting lineup 2 weeks ago. Rookie offensive tackles drafted outside of round 1 aren't supposed to start, let alone look this good.
That's why they go so high, right? It's the same as quarterbacks or your elite pass rushers. Like, they're often taken in the first half of the first round. Like, look at this, Bobby. I love it when guys end up on the ground. Now, maybe he slipped a little bit on that one, but like he almost gets him down on his knee. He barely gets up off of his knee. Just time and time again, Lamar can be comfortable back there, 100% comfortable. And again, and this kind of we're bringing this back to Monken, right? Like whether it's unlocking Lamar, and don't get me wrong, Lamar is Lamar, but he wasn't unlocked under Greg Roman. Whether it's still being able to, this is what Monken's reputation was before he came into the league. His reputation was that he adjusts his offense to his players. Whereas Greg Roman and many other people were like, bring me players that fit my offensive scheme. That is not Todd Monken. He adjusts. Yeah. So he unlocks Lamar. He unlocks this rookie right here. He took him a minute, but he's got Derrick Henry and Lamar just killing it off of each other. People saying, oh, can he do it under in an RPO formation? Can he do it under? Can he not do it when it's not under center? Like he's figured out. How about all these tight ends? All these tight ends. I want to get to this. Where's the slide on the 22 personnel? Let me see here. Right here. So Mike Renner did another video where he's like, oh, just the Ravens getting 4 vertical routes from 22 personnel.
2 backs, 2 tight ends.
2 backs, 2 tight ends. How often do you see that? Like if you're having four verts, you got wide receivers out there. I can promise you more than half is wide. It's not coming from 22 personnel. So Trevor Sikkema, he quote retweets that and says, Todd Monken was born for this gig. This is the tape that he's putting out there that is so different from all the other teams that you're watching. No wonder his name is coming up when people are talking about future coaching positions.
Oh, yeah. And then, speaking of the guys that are running vertical here, right, the wide receivers have been contributing as well, even though the numbers don't pop off the page at you. And they obviously won't through 5 weeks when you're the leading rushing attack and you're overwhelming teams. Mm-hmm. Look at where Rashad Bateman is. Let's give him his flowers in terms of what he's always done well throughout his career. And that is create separation with silky smooth route running ability. He's got a 5.1 average yards of separation per target. That ranked second best in the NFL among wide receivers in week 5. Again, that was the Cincinnati game last weekend. And here's more from Jeff Zrebiec, who got some numbers from PFF on bait. He's created separation on a league high 72.73% of snaps against press coverage.
League high?
That's right.
Woo!
That's right. The next closest receiver is at 61.54% after 5 weeks. A nice little sizable gap there between the two. He had 8 targets on Sunday. Jeff refers to that as progress, and the focus should be on getting him even more involved. We know that Zay Flowers has and will continue to be involved in this offense. But again, just kind of it speaks to, for topic 1 here, why Monken is garnering so much interest here. Or I shouldn't say so much, because coming off last year is what I'm referring to as. But there's a reason why this offense is humming, and there's a specific reason.
Yeah, it's like you want him to keep it up. You want Monken to keep it up. But we see on the defensive side what turnover can do. I'm not giving up on this defense yet, but you see Mike Mack go, and they're just not humming like they used to. And maybe they will. But it's the same type of thing here. How many coaches do you trust with Lamar? Now, Lamar will make any coach look good, but how many coaches are going to also help Lamar look good? How many coaches are also going to showcase that? So listen, from a personal level, I hope Todd Monken gets his shot. From a Ravens perspective, a selfish perspective, we want him to stay. We want the continuity. We want this type of stuff where we're seeing a number 1 offense in yards, number 2 in points through week 5. We want continuity. and the fan base has not gotten over Mike Mack yet. have not done it. And to go through that transition again, it would be tough. So the one thing we got going for us though here in Baltimore, if we want to keep him, is usually, we'll see, but usually teams like to find the new up and coming head coach so they can have him, for decades. That's what they want to find. So maybe just because Monken is a little bit older, you'd think that with wisdom people would want that, but maybe that's what the Ravens got going for them if they want to keep Todd Monken around.
Well, he's operating a scary offense, and that was a point of discussion earlier this week on ESPN, right? And I guess the debate topic was, are the Chiefs still the scariest team in the NFL? Is that what you grabbed?
Yeah, so basically they were discussing because the Chiefs are 5-0 because they won on Monday night. Are there any other 5-0 teams?
Yes, Minnesota.
Okay, but are there any in the AFC? It's just Minnesota and the Chiefs?
Yep, on each conference has one.
Okay, so first take, their first topic coming off the top, they reviewed the Chiefs win. They're now 5-0, and they're 5-0 with a lot of flaws again, which is crazy. So they asked, who's the scariest? Are they the scariest? So I only clipped Shannon Sharpe and Dominique Foxworth, both former Ravens.
You look at all three phases, I think their defense is better than Baltimore's defense. Baltimore's offense is playing a little better than Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes has not played his best football all year long, and somehow they still find themselves 5-0. You see Kareem Hunt, he's starting to run the football. Juju is starting to get his mojo back. They're starting to get Travis Kelce involved. So when I look at all three phases, yeah, I think they're the did you ask, are they the best team in AFC? Yes, absolutely.
Scariest team.
Because because of all three phases. You look at Buckner. I think right now he's right. I think he's a little better than Tuck is right now. Tuck had a little yips in the first 2 to 3 weeks of the season. And so when you look at Buck, the way he's kicking the football, you look at the way they're playing defense. That defense with Chris Jones, they got a back end with McDuffie, who's one of the better corners in all the football that we don't really talk about. Maybe we don't know his name enough, but he's playing outstanding football. That can pressure, that can stop the run. And like I said, Mahomes is not playing his best football, but they're finding ways to win ball games because the defense is playing lights out. I love the addition of Juju. And when you look at it, yeah, I think they're the scariest team in AFC when you look at all three phases of it.
Yeah, I think Patrick Mahomes is scary, but they aren't the scariest team in the AFC right now. And I understand they're 5-0, but the issues that this team have, they don't have answers for. They have issues at both tackles. They can't protect Patrick Mahomes. And you see that in the plays that they're running, in the way that Patrick is playing. Even when he is protected, he's antsy trying to get rid of the ball. And I would say that the Ravens are probably the scariest team. They're not perfect across the offensive line either, but they have a guy named Derrick Henry. And so all the names that you mentioned are not running backs. The Chiefs lost Pacheco. You answered to deficiency at the tackle spot by taking pressure off of them and running the ball. And I think the the Chiefs defense is as good as it gets in football. But I think the Ravens are just as good, particularly match up well against the Chiefs and the Bills, the type of teams that they have to play well against. You see the Ravens have trouble when their defense is compromised by receivers that require extra attention. Then it takes Hamilton out of the special things that he can do. It binds Roquan in the middle. Also, I think this team is going to play well against the Bills. They're going to play well against the Chiefs. The one team that scares me is the team that they just beat in Cincinnati, who may not even make the playoffs. So I think that the Ravens right now are the scariest team. The questions that we've had about Lamar, his issue with accuracy seems to be addressed so far this season. His issue with the blitz is addressed so far this season. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league against the blitz. And the big difference maker in a lot of these important games is how productive you are in the red zone. And the Ravens are amongst the best teams in the red zone, and the Chiefs are the worst.
Dom, I think you're
All right. So I'll ask you and I'll ask the live chat. Who do you agree with? Shannon, who says the Chiefs are the scariest, or Dominique, who says the Ravens are the scariest team in the AFC?
Shannon, it's a really simple answer as to why. The Chiefs showed last year around this time, throughout much of the first half of the season, even down the stretch in the second half, that they can sputter. They can be pedestrian offensively. They can be pedestrian as a team. And yet when the lights are bright and January comes around, it's still, whether it runs through Arrowhead or not, which they proved last year, it doesn't have to run through Arrowhead the postseason to the Super Bowl. And they can still overwhelm you. They can still find ways to win when it matters the most. Travis Kelce's still that guy, even though the first 4 weeks were below pedestrian numbers. Mahomes, I think he's the league leader in interceptions, but he's willing to take those risks, and a lot of more often than not, they pay off. So yeah, to me, it's simple. Right now in this moment, the scariest team in terms of I could see where Dominique's coming from right now in this moment. But when you look at the big picture, it's got to be Kansas City because they've been here, done that before.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I'm with Shannon, and I'm with Truth Bearer, who just gave us a super chat. He says our defense has to play better to deserve title as well, he says best team. The question is scariest team, but it's kind of on topic here. Defense still wins championships, but we have a higher ceiling. I agree with him 100%. Like if we meant scary in the more traditional way that we mean it, which is like I'm afraid of the Ravens defense, like I'm afraid of how they can hurt them the team overall, then I would say the Ravens are the scariest, but that's not the meaning of scary here. It means like who's going to strike fear into the opponents the most. And what's also scary about to me is that yes, both teams, the Ravens and the Chiefs, are both working through issues. They're both doing it. However, the Chiefs are doing it to the tune of a 5-0 record, whereas the Ravens are doing it to the tune of a 3-2 record. And some of these wins by the Chiefs, this one over the New Orleans, 26-13, pretty comfortable. 17-10 against the Chargers, pretty close. 22-17 against Falcons, pretty close. 26-25, very close, just like with us against the Bengals. And then we know what happened in Baltimore. So actually, their wins are pretty tight too, actually. But that is what's scary about the Chiefs, is that they know how to finish in the end. They know how to finish. So they have tight games. The Ravens have tight games. But they finished 2 more times than the Ravens finished. So to me, they're the scariest because of that 5-0 record, because of what they have done 2 years in a row, finishing in the Super Bowl. So I give them right now, week 5, them the scariest title, but there's a lot of season to go. And as Truth just said, I honestly think the Ravens have a higher ceiling because, and we're going to get to this with the defense, I honestly think the defense can get a lot better than what they're showing right now. And if that happens, watch out with what this offense is doing.
One thing we haven't mentioned too in the Kansas City side of things is that they have an endless supply of playmaking ability. They lose Isaiah Pacheco. They lose Rashee Rice. Oh, you know what? We're going to go call on Juju Smith-Schuster. We're going to go call on a rookie in Xavier Worthy. Andy Reid gets so much out of his playmakers that it's almost like when these guys go down, they don't even skip a beat. And maybe they have skipped a beat in the sense that they're pedestrian offensively right now, but they're pedestrian and winning games, and that's championship caliber. So we've talked a lot. We've teased a lot about the defense. We've talked a lot about it. It's time to dive into some specifics. And friend of the show, Cole Jackson, who covers the Ravens, of course, on Twitter and in the YouTube space with his channel called Road Graders, where he takes a look at offensive line play. That is his specialty. He went the opposite side this time, Sarah, and took a look at Zach Orr's defense. And the main theme here is, what's the root cause of these issues? Is it scheme or is it execution? And you took a look today. I actually haven't watched, so I'm going to be educated.
Yeah. So I'll say this to start it off. His conclusion after about a 30-minute film study, and I've grabbed 3 from there. I had 4, but for some reason technology isn't working, so I can't get the 4th in here. The vast majority of it is execution by the players. The vast majority of it. Now, that's not to take Zach Orr off the hook, but in this specific game, I'm not talking about all the other games. In this specific game, if you're talking about why the Ravens gave up so many points on defense, more often than not, it was the players either messing up or the Bengals receivers were just better, right? That they didn't mess up, but the Bengals receivers were just better. And I'll talk about the first one that I wasn't able to bring in, that long, deep pass to Jamar Chase. Not the long bubble screen. We'll get to that. I have film on that. But the long one to the corner of the end zone, which the broadcast pinned on Marcus Williams. On that one, according to the film, it actually was Marlon Humphrey. Marlon Humphrey cheated on that play and then got caught. And they were in thirds on defense, and Marcus Williams had a different assignment, and Marlon was supposed to be back with Eddie Jackson kind of playing the robber. So that first one on Marlon Humphrey, but they were in a fine play call to stop that. But Marlon cheated and got caught. Okay, now this is another execution one. I'll leave the bad scheme part for last. This one is the deep pass that wasn't quite a touchdown by Andre, and you know his name better than I because you practiced it.
Yoshi-Vash.
Yoshi-Vash. There we go. So here it is. This one is on Wiggins.
So there's your line to gain. There's your first down. So right at this point, above the 30-yard line, he's trying to play the stem. He's trying to play sticks coverage. So watch this again as they approach the 30. Nate Wiggins trying to play sticks coverage. You're going to see right there, he's going to freeze, and he just continues on past him. He tried to play sticks coverage, trying to prevent that pass. He tried to cheat, and they hit him deep. And so again, scheme versus execution. If you're going to play that sticks coverage, he doesn't have safety help over to this side. He's going to play the wider side of the field. Again, it looks like they're bracketing Jamar Chase. That's likely a check pre-snap. Nate Wiggins has to know he doesn't have that help directly over his head. So when he cheats up, which I understand why he's cheating up, he's trying to play the sticks.
So a lot of people, again, blamed Marcus Williams. And again, the ball was in the air forever, so maybe Marcus could have made it. But Marcus had a different assignment. And so Wiggins, as he's saying, should have known that and shouldn't have relied on that by playing up. He maybe should have played it more conservatively, knowing that there wasn't an assignment for a safety to be over his head. So that one, Cole put on Wiggins. This one is the bubble screen.
If anything, Marcus was busting his tail to get over there to try and help.
Right. He was trying to get there. Right.
Yeah.
Now, listen, this next play, you can blame Marcus Williams all you want, along with Roquan, along with Harrison. So this is the bubble screen.
So take your pick then.
Yeah. So all three of them. And again, just bad execution.
And this one is going to be one that's execution to a T. Jamar Chase going for that screen. So they're going to motion him over here to the slot, and they see they're in zone because Roquan walks out. They got Marcus Williams over top, but that's part of why this was such a good play for them. They're going to see they got the 3-on-2 look here because it's going to be a bubble screen. So as they throw this, right there, you got your numbers, right? You got 2 blockers on 2 DBs. Well, that's actually Malik Harrison right there. But he essentially just needs to work upfield after he catches this against the linebacker. And so Roquan Smith, Marcus Williams take terrible angles. As soon as Roquan sees this, he should not be going directly at him. He should be working more laterally, trying to cut him off. And Jamar hits this between the 2 players. And then Marcus Williams, being the safety, has to step up and make a tackle here. And he just over pursues his run lane completely. So when you end up in a situation like this, Malik Harrison should be driving outside for his leverage points.
Sarah, we've got some breaking news.
Oh, boy.
We've got some breaking Ravens news. And let's do this. This is perfectly kind of aligned with what we're talking about right now. And so I'm going to do a screen share of Jeff Zarevic's tweet here. Work with us, bear with us here on the fly. The Ravens are bringing some help into the building. Jeff Zarevic's latest here. He just spoke to Zach Orr, who said he's bringing on longtime NFL assistant and defensive coordinator Dean Pease for a senior advisor role.
Ooh.
Jeff's quote after speaking with Zach is that he is a guy who knows me as a person, knows the system, knows the culture here. He's a Raven. Dean Pease is starting this week in Baltimore. And if that's not the best news you've heard this week, or maybe even this season, it may not seem like much, but that dude knows the building, Sarah. As Zach said, he knows Zach, and he is an accomplished DC in this league. Great decision by Zach.
That's crazy. I don't remember Pease ending on a great note in Baltimore. Call me crazy. Been lots of good defensive coordinators, and I thought he was a good D coordinator, but if you had to rank him, I wouldn't put him towards the top. That being said, it's still Zach Orr's defense. And if he wants a veteran coach that can give him another perspective, here's what I want to say about this from Zach Orr's perspective. Immature people are afraid to show that they need help. Okay. Perfect example. I have a daughter who has a coach who's super young, and you can tell she's afraid to get any feedback from parents, right? But a more veteran, seasoned coach would say, "Oh yeah, give me your feedback. We're cool. Like we'll learn from each other." To me, this says a lot about Zach. That it's like, I'm not going to be too proud to bring in a move like this where it's a former Ravens defensive coordinator. He is a veteran guy. He is experienced, and I'm not too proud to bring him in. I'm not too insecure to bring him in. Right?
Totally with you.
Because you know what I mean? Like there's so many
Totally.
people that just can't even admit that some help can be used. And so I like that from Zach's perspective. That to me tells me that he is a secure guy because he can listen and he is open to help. So I really, really appreciate that from him.
I totally agree.
And like I said, Dean Pease, I need to go back and look it up how the Ravens ranked under him. I don't remember it being the highest, but that doesn't matter. This isn't his defense. He's here to bring another perspective, and I'm cool with that. I'm definitely cool with that. We talked about Saleh being a guy that's like, hey, bring in a veteran voice, just give another perspective. Because how many veteran voices did you point out that the Ravens lost last year? So yes, Mike Mack did a good job, and he's doing a great job in Seattle.
Yep.
But do we underestimate how part of him being so great is that he could listen to so many experienced veteran voices? So why not bring in another one of those for Zach Orr after the defensive coaching staff was just gutted?
If you are just tuning in, almost perfectly aligned with what we were discussing.
Yes.
A film breakdown on the defensive miscues in recent weeks, particularly Sunday in Cincinnati. We've got some breaking news. Jeff Zrebiec of The Athletic just had a conversation with Ravens defensive coordinator Zach Orr, who told him that he is bringing on longtime NFL assistant, defensive coordinator, got a lot of NFL experience, Dean Pease, for a senior advisor role. He is 75 years old. He was Baltimore's defensive coordinator from 2012 to 2017. He coached Orr, has been a mentor of Zach's. They talked about potentially bringing him on board this summer in a follow-up tweet here from Jeff, but decided the time was right now. He is going to be on the practice field today and in defensive meetings. This is happening now. This looks like it already happened. And this is your breaking Ravens news just within the last couple minutes. More from Zach. Jeff is just firing off tweets right now. He is the best in the business. Quote, I stayed in contact with Dean throughout the season, and I said, quote, hey, it would be good if you wanted to come up here and be an advisor, be another set of eyes, just be a help to us. Ultimately, all I care about is us performing the best that we can help us to win. So, yeah, I think what you said and your instant reaction to this is absolutely perfect. This is a 32-year-old defensive coordinator who, as Rex Ryan has said multiple times in recent weeks, is coaching from a book. He is newly minted. He is drinking from the fire hose. There has been a significant amount of change and turnover since last year's historic group led by Mike Mack, led by guys like Jadeveon Clowney and Patrick Queen and Geno Stone, all of whom left in free agency, led by longtime assistants like Anthony Weaver, who's got a tremendous amount of experience under his belt, who left for a DC opening in Miami, led by Denard Wilson, who was great for the secondary. Again, just a player guy who left for Tennessee to become a DC. There was a lot to overcome here, and I think it's wise of a young Zach Orr to make this decision today.
Very, very wise. Like I said, I like a veteran voice to be in there. Dean Pease was in Baltimore from 2012 to 2017. After he left, he went on, was the coordinator for the Tennessee Titans 2018-19, and then the Atlanta Falcons 21-22. So if I remember correctly, Dean Pease had retired at 2017, right? And then unretired. Then he unretired. So I think what was if I remember correctly in the live chat can tell me otherwise. I think the frustration when Dean Pease was here was too much prevent defense. And so you would like suddenly be, that's like the defensive version of just like trying to run out the clock on offense, right? By running and not being aggressive anymore. So Dean Pease, it was like late in the game when you have the lead, he'd go into the prevent defense, which would obviously give up a lot of yards. So I think that was the knock on him. But I mean, he had a 5-year stay here. And I'm still trying to look up the rankings of the Ravens defense during those 5 years, but I haven't been able to find it yet.
Well, if you do, let me know. I'll get some super chats in here as well. We appreciate you guys for being with us today. We've got some breaking news. Dean Pease is going to serve as a senior advisor to Zach Orr's defense. 75-year-old Zach's 32. Certainly can't hurt. Oots, thanks for the $10 super chat donation. Zach Orr is one of the hardest working humans in the building, doing his first DC gig ever. We as the flock need to rally around him. He will be great for us, just like he has always been. Patience, preaching patience. Thanks, Oots. Truth Bearer already noted this a minute ago. Dean Pease, last 2 years on the Ravens, our defense was ranked 9th and 6th in 2016 and 2017 in scoring defense. Jeremy Uphoff says, how about today's Spencer Schultz Twitter Lamar Jackson sack stat? Haven't seen that one yet, but Spenny's always on top of it. And Guacamole says, going to the game, Bobby. I hope to see you there. I will not be there on Sunday. I will be at the Be More Around Town tailgate pregame and then rushing over to my at-home studio, as Sarah and I always do, so we can work out of our Google Doc and our Google Slides to get ready for our post-game show. So if you're just tuning in, we've got over 2,700 of you concurrently with us right now for this breaking news. Sarah, did you find anything else before we get back to the defensive clips?
Why don't you, can you share the slide on Cole Jackson has Zach Orr through 5 weeks and Mike McDonald through his first 5 weeks. Remember we were asking about that yesterday?
Let's see here. We were asking about it yesterday. We didn't put it into today's, but I do have.
Not put it in?
I do have leftover from what I used yesterday. So stand by.
Hold on a second.
No, hold up. Right that was yesterday's though. So, okay. So yeah, go ahead.
This was yesterday's.
Yeah, you didn't. It's okay. It's all good. I pulled that in from yesterday's.
Think so, but we'll talk about that later. He said, so here it is through 5 weeks. Why don't you read it through so I can keep looking up these rankings? 5 weeks, Mike McDonald versus the first 5 weeks for Zach Orr.
Yeah. So this is what we were wondering, right? 2022 defense, through 5 weeks, which was a 3-2 record for the 2022 Ravens. They allowed over 1,400 passing yards, 1,451 to be exact. They played quarterbacks that included Joe Flacco, Tua, Mac Jones, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow that year. They allowed 540 rushing yards, which came to over 1,900 total yards allowed, 1,991 to be exact. So now he, again, cross-compared here to this year through 5 weeks, also a 3-2 record for the Ravens. They've allowed 1,401 passing yards. They've faced Patrick Mahomes, Gardner Minshew, Dak Prescott, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow. They've allowed 302 rushing yards for a total of 1,703 total yards. So, all things considered, they've allowed less passing yards. We're nitpicking a little bit, but they've allowed less in all three categories. But it is, which is the part of the bigger picture here, there is some similarities here between the two first opening starts of the seasons.
This will be interesting. I wonder if the media is going to be able to talk to Dean Pease specifically. And check reply of your last tweet says Truth. Look at Truth. He's helping me out here.
He's doing the Lord's work here.
Listen, you know what? I appreciate
you do that, Sarah, because more from Jeff here. And again, thank you for your patience, guys, on the fly work here with the Dean Pease stuff. Sarah, you were right. I pulled in the wrong slide, so sorry about that. We're doing some juggling here. And more from Zach Orr. Quote, if you get a guy I'm real close with and a guy who knows the culture and is a great football mind and he's down for it, to me, it's a no-brainer. Jeff goes on to write, the Ravens have a young defensive staff in terms of NFL experience in certain spots, and Dean Pease has 4 different stints as an NFL defensive coordinator. Truth Bearer doing a
He
whole lot
got
of
me,
work.
man. He got me. This is great. Love him. Love him. Okay. So
Now, how about I screen share it? You want to navigate to me? Let me know where it is, and you read it,
here,
and
you
I'll
want
bring
me
it up.
to? Sure. Here, let me send it to you via. You want it via Twitter DMs?
You do that. We'll get to some super chats while you do that. TY says we just need the defense to show up for 4 quarters of football. It's that simple. 77 Figures says Pease gave up 2 14-point leads against the Pats in 2014, and he hasn't forgotten. He's keeping Dean Pease on record here for the 2014 season, 10 years ago. Oh, man.
I think it's because of that prevent defense that people were ticked off about it. So.
Okay.
So not necessarily helpful in the fourth quarter based off of the history, but again, we've got wounds, right? Like I still like this move. I don't want to, downplay it too much, but okay. Did you get it?
Off to
Here
PFF we go.
Thank you, Truth Bearer. You are the best. So if we zoom in here to 2012, and then we can look at rankings here. Can you scroll up a little bit so I can see? Okay, rankings. So defensive ranking yards in 2012, 17th. Then, so I'm going to go from 2012, from 2012 up to 2017. So I'm going to put it in that order going forward. So if I look at the yards here, ranked 17, then 12, then 8. So there you go. 17, then down 1 is 12. Bobby, go down to 13. There you go. 12, 8, 8, 7, 12. So first year he was number 17. Most years about top 10.
Mm-hmm.
Points per game. The Ravens ranked under him 12, 12, 6, then 24 in 2015. But that was a bad year. Joe Flacco was injured that year. 24, 9, and then 6. So if you want to take 2015 out as an outlier when you don't have a quarterback and, you don't have that to play to your advantage, typically had him in top 10 for points per game on defense.
Okay.
I don't remember it being absolutely stellar, but it was doable. So, but again, this is not his defense. I put that together. No, it's just a veteran voice, right? It's a veteran voice that gives Zach Orr another perspective.
And that right there is your impromptu breaking news segment in mid live stream on the newest member as a senior advisor to Zach Orr's defensive staff. Back to where we were, which was also the defense. You've got a couple more clips there from Cole Jackson's latest breakdown. And again, thank you for your patience, guys, as we kind of navigated that on the fly.
Yeah, that was fun. But thank you again to Truth Bearer. Okay, now here's one where this is on the scheme. Like I showed you 3, or I showed you 2 that were on execution, a third that I couldn't pull in, but it was on execution again. Here's one that is more on the scheme, and we've seen this before. And it has to do with what they're asking of Roquan Smith in coverage.
It's not that Zach Orr's, completely off the hook, stronger coverage. And so one of the fundamental issues with schematically when they're doing this is they get Roquan or Kyle Hamilton, we'll see on another play. They come up and they mug the A-gap. And then Roquan has to drop back from the line of scrimmage and cover this massive area. So you're going to see 2 things on this play. So Higgins is just running, an up and slant, basically. And so because you're going to have this zone drop here, Marlon Humphrey plays this with outside leverage. And like I said, he's trying to push that ball into the middle. But Roquan had to drop from the line of scrimmage to cover the middle of the field against a receiver. Joe Burrow just delivers a perfect ball against that zone. And Marlon Humphrey isn't able to jump on that. So if they want to play this way, whatever, I don't really see the purpose in mugging the A-gap constantly and then asking Roquan to drop back and cover the lake.
Yeah. So he's just pointing out that it's like, here you are up on the line of scrimmage in the A-gap, and then all of a sudden you have to drop all the way back, and there's this wide, very wide zone that you have to pick up. And in this case, he's saying that's on the scheme, asking too much. And by the way, Cole isn't the only one. I saw a couple of other people, national film study people say the same thing, that was asking too much of Roquan in that instance. Now, again, Roquan, that's on him for taking the bad angle on the bubble screen with Jamar Chase. That's on Roquan. He's a veteran. He should know better. But in this situation where they've done this in other games and then again here, it clearly is like, even if you want to say, well, whatever, Ray Lewis could do it or something, I don't know. Clearly, it's been shown enough that you're asking too much of him in this situation. So don't do that scheme anymore.
Yeah, contrary to popular belief, too, Rose caught some fire this year, but he's actually coming off one of his better performances ever that's been logged by PFF. He had a 91
in terms of run defense.
Right.
Yeah.
Run defense, 91 flat overall grade. I know that was not a running play, but just to give you an idea of what zero is maybe hopefully starting to stack to. That's the second best among all defenders in week 5, and it was a new career high. You've got one more clip as well, correct?
Well, this is on the offensive side. So Ryan Mink put out a great video highlighting how good Ronnie Stanley is, and now we're hitting up to 52 minutes. So my plan was to maybe show it twice, it's because we'll just start a little bit. Like, he's just showing like this resurgent year for Ronnie Stanley. It's circled there, 79. Like, he's not letting his dude get anywhere near Lamar. Now somebody else did, but Ronnie did not on that play. Okay. Moving on to the next, here's Ronnie Stanley again, circled to the left. He's got, let's see who he's got coming. Oh, he fakes the first block. It's pitched out to Justice there, and Ronnie gets moving up the field and gets a block for Justice Hill. Then we have another one here. Let's see what the play this is. You've got Henry and I formation, and then boom, just right between. Oh, he did a fake run up behind Ronnie, and instead Ronnie was able to stick his guy. Lamar hits Zay Flowers down the sideline. Last one, Lamar Jackson calling an audible. We got Ronnie with nobody in front of him. Let's see how he adjusts. He's got Justice Hill in sidecar. Ronnie's guy isn't anywhere near. Like, it's a stone wall. Okay, stone wall. Okay, so let me replay this. Okay, Ronnie's looking great. Great film study by Ryan Mink. But as my guy Skeptic Goat showed when he quote retweeted it, now watch Daniel Fa'alele. Okay. I don't think Daniel Fa'alele makes a single block, except for one where he's in a combination block with, I think, Linderbaum. Okay, so ignore the circles for Ronnie Stanley. Fa'alele, number 77, to the right of Linderbaum. Now let's watch this again. Ignore the circle to Stanley. Fa'alele. Doesn't really do anything. Doesn't really do anything.
Actually, we got a super chat on this earlier from Rave Kingdom. He was like, hey, play that Bills clip again when we were showing Roger Rosengart, and look at Fa'alele.
Fa'alele again to the right. There he is, 77. Nothing. Does literally nothing.
I choose to watch Ronnie instead. I'm watching Ronnie instead.
No. Go back to Fa'alele again. Here we go. Right to the right of Linderbaum. Okay.
What's he doing with his feet? He's doing foot fires out there.
He just kind of has one hand while Roger Rosengarten's kind of doing all the work on that one.
God
all right,
bless him.
Hold on a second. Okay, Fa'alele number 70.
77, zone in on him, second in from the right.
He's listening to the audible. All right. Does he got it? Okay. Oh, K-Taps Linderbaum. Yep. And
man.
Almost let him through to get Lamar. Lamar gets it off just in time to Mark Andrews on that one. All right. Sorry, we got to do one more. Linderbaum or Fa'alele 77. Lets his block totally through. Yeah. Wants to celebrate the touchdown. This is in overtime. Henry doesn't quite get there. So he's celebrating. He didn't have to do much work.
Oh, you feel so bad because he's such a good dude, but that's a tough sequence right there.
Dude. He's such a good dude.
Those are tough sequences. The way he moves laterally is just,
It's just funny. Bobby, what's funny about this is these clips were put together for Ronnie Stanley. So they were random for Fa'alele. So it's not like somebody went out and said, let me go find the worst 5 or 6 plays from Fa'alele. Yeah. Like, this was a Ronnie Stanley highlight clip. And then just when you happen to look over at Fa'alele, he was doing nothing there. So,
oh boy. All right. Well, some
Okay.
tough conversations there. some tough sequences there for the defense. Obviously, we were just talking about defense, but that was
Yeah.
a little look at the offensive line. Thanks to Cole Jackson for those clips. You can go check out his content on YouTube or on Twitter at Road Graders or at Cole Jackson FB. Well, we've mentioned this a couple times, and it is a balanced approach with which both the Commanders and Ravens have operated so far through 5 weeks. And look at the similarities. Total yards, 1,963 for Washington, over 2,200 for Baltimore. Passing yards, almost lockstep, 226.6 for the Commanders, 241.4 for the Ravens. What about rushing yards per game? Of course, the Ravens are going to be a little bit more north of Washington here, but Commanders, 178.4, 211.2 for the NFL leaders in Baltimore. What about points per game? You mentioned this one earlier. 31 flat for Washington, 29.4 for the Ravens. And now we switch over to the defensive side of the ball because there hasn't been a whole lot of it between these two teams. Opponent yards per game for Washington, 328 flat, 340.6 for the Ravens. Opponent's points per game, 23 flat for the Commanders, 25.2 for the Ravens, and pretty even in sacks as well, 15 for Washington, 16 for the Ravens. Peter Schrager, NFL Network, already talking about potentially previewing this as the game of the year. I thought last weekend was in Cincinnati.
Oh. Or how about the game, the season opener?
Or that
with
one.
with the Chiefs and the Ravens. Like the
Yeah.
Ravens are just must-see TV. Obviously. What else you got here?
Oh, look at this. Just more parity. Most
Okay.
total points in the NFL. We mentioned this earlier on.
Okay.
Washington with 155. Baltimore with 147. There's a lot of similarities, and it's certainly setting up on paper, Sarah, to potentially be back-to-back shootouts. If that wasn't enough, look at the offense in terms of EPA per play. Again, that tracks efficiency. Washington's way out in front, and the Ravens are not far behind them, along with Cincinnati as well. 3 of the hottest offenses. Hard to believe, though. One team's unlike the other. Cincy's 1-4, and they're high atop this list.
It's just so weird, Bobby, because those 3 high-flying offenses are also in the lower quadrant for the defensive EPA, which is not good for any of them. And it's just, it almost feels like we're in bizarro world because the Ravens are usually historically so defensive oriented. So to see them, like, I just remember the days when I first started covering the Ravens and Kyle Bowler would trot out there and then it'd be like a 3 and out and you'd be like, oh, terrible. And you're like, ooh, but I'm excited because here comes Ray Lewis and Ed Reed. Like, here's our chance to actually score. And so you'd actually look forward to watching the defense because it was more exciting. And here we are in 2024, completely flipped, where they're the offensive juggernaut and the defense is struggling. It's just weird to come from those defensive days to this.
No question. And a lot of people are talking about this matchup from a quarterback standpoint because Jaden is a bona fide superstar at this point, let's call him a budding superstar. It's been 5 weeks.
Yeah.
But the fact that he's receiving some MVP buzz, it gives you an idea of maybe a lot of this has to do with the sheer excitement that Washington finally, as a fan base, for years and years and years of being starved of stardom, starved of competition, starved of stability in their ownership, right? Like they finally have something going. New ownership, new head coach, new franchise QB, and they're winning football games. They're 4-1 right now. Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs, 2 defensive players in division with the Commanders in the NFC East of the Cowboys. Diggs and Parsons had this to say about Jaden coming to Baltimore this weekend.
So,
you know, a do-it-all moment for me would be if he went out there and dominated against the Baltimore Ravens next week and they play them, you know, this week. I mean, that would be huge. I mean, that Baltimore defense.
I for sure think it's gonna get done. Like I think he can do it because he got that swag to him. Like he got that confidence. Like I know I'm like that, you know. And I feel like, you know, that come a lot from Q too. Like, you know how Q had us. Q had us with our confidence like through the roof. Like he's gonna have you ready to play. You're gonna be ready to play. You're gonna be ready crash through a wall playing for him. So I feel like him with his talent and his ability and like he got that behind him and that support, like sky's the limit.
And Sarah, as you pulled in, KVN taking notice of that confidence from Parsons and Diggs on somebody who he's going to be tasked with trying to defend coming up on Sunday.
He took note, Bobby. He took note. Micah says they could go out there and dominate the Ravens, meaning the Commanders could go out and dominate the Ravens defense. And Diggs says, I for sure think it's gonna get done. So things like what we're saying, things like the film study is showing, things like the chart we just showed, it's all showing that the defense is not holding up its end of the bargain. And so there's not a lot of believers. And that's perfect for NFL football players. Good. I'm taking notice. I'm taking notice to see who didn't believe in us in this moment, because when we come back out on top, we'll remember who it was. Now, it will be interesting here, Bobby. I mean, it very well could be another shootout. The thing that I don't know that enough people are taking into account is obviously Lamar Jackson is 21-1 against the NFC. And a lot of the NFC teams, or a lot of the teams that are facing Jaden Daniels, they're just not used to seeing a dual threat quarterback. A lot of people hate that Jaden Daniels is being compared to Lamar. Look, I get it, but I also think that people need to pump the brakes a little bit. So say like we traditionally had dual threat quarterbacks and then Tom Brady came around, okay? Then all of a sudden you get a new rookie that is a traditional drop back passer. Then everybody is saying, oh, he's like Brady. Well, yeah, he's a traditional drop back passer and you're used to dual threat quarterbacks. So they're the same like that. And other teams aren't used to seeing him and he's playing really well. But hold on a second, Brady is the GOAT. It's kind of the same thing here. We're used to seeing traditional drop back quarterbacks. We're seeing a rise of more dual threat guys. And Daniels is right there with Lamar and being a dual threat guy. But it's 5 weeks. So
5 weeks.
Lamar's got 2 MVPs. This is his 7th year. Let's just pump the brakes a little bit on acting like he's on Lamar's level, even though he plays similar to Lamar. Okay, that's one thing I want to say. But circling back to the first point I was going to say is that a lot of people are saying, oh, it could be another shootout, and it very well could. But both these defenses have experience in playing against a dual threat quarterback. They've practiced against it. They've seen it. The Ravens defense had to go against Lamar Jackson every single day in training camp. Whereas these NFC teams who have a hard time with Lamar, they're also going to have a hard time with Jaden Daniels. So let's see if both these defenses actually steps up a little bit, because they know what the other guy looks like. And I would argue to say that, the Ravens defense has a bit more experience than the Commanders.
Jaden has had a whole lot of time in that pocket, a lot of time to sit back, show off his refinement as a passer. Perhaps that's one area that he had on Lamar, that he has on Lamar as a rookie compared to Lamar as a rookie. I think you could argue that Jaden is more refined as a passer. Lamar is the more dynamic runner. I'm talking about rookie year Lamar versus what we're seeing right now through 5 early weeks of Jaden. But man, one thing that offensive line has given him, Sarah, is time. And if that happens again, that's when you start to get worried, given some of the breakdowns, given some of these miscues that you pointed out through Cole Jackson's film study. Over 3,000 of you concurrently watching us today. I have the Weather Channel on in the background, and I'd be remiss if I didn't remind everybody too, Sarah, because I feel like we have a lot of Ravens flock community members that are in the Florida area. Stay safe, you guys, man. Be careful down there. It is scary. I know it was downgraded, the Hurricane Milton, to Category 4, but that is still extremely destructive. I've been checking in on a lot of my family members who are getting out of the West Coast. We hope you do the same if you guys are in those areas of harm. So anyway, just wanted to throw that out there. But another defensive note as well is that Pepe Williams is back in the building as a member of the practice squad. Kadar Hallman was picked up by Houston after running out of practice squad elevations yesterday. So this is the corresponding move. And Baltimore's former 2022 4th rounder is back as a defensive back.
I'm happy for Pepe. I know that he went and after he got cut, he went and had a few tryouts. He wasn't able to land anywhere. So happy for him that he, gets another shot at least with the practice squad. Ravens recently had to put Jalen Armour-Davis, correct, on IR.
JAD is on IR.
Yep, on IR. So it's good to bring back a little depth again, and that's not bad depth to have on the practice squad. But I'm also not like, he was also cut for a reason. So, but I'm happy for him, and I'm happy that we can have that depth on the practice squad.
As far as an update on Davante Adams and this perceived interest from Baltimore, at least out there, and me and Rappaport did mention that they would check in on Davante. That was last week when we covered the whole cryptic Instagram story posts of
Schefter
Edgar
said it
Allan
again
Poe.
this week, though.
I'm sorry?
Schefter said it again this week.
Okay. So
Yeah.
Schefter and Rappaport, two of the biggest NFL insiders, two of the top NFL insiders, still mentioning that maybe there's some interest there. Peter Schrager, who's got some Baltimore ties, works for NFL Network, had this to say about the Ravens' interest as of yesterday morning.
That they want a second-round pick and something else. Second-round pick is a really valuable selection. There is a limited amount of teams that could be interest of, and that could be a limited amount of teams that can even afford them. People mention the Chiefs. Chiefs aren't going to trade for Davante Adams, and the Raiders aren't going to trade the Chiefs, their prize player in division, and hand him into a division rival. People mention the Ravens. I've heard that the Ravens are absolutely not interested. So now you narrow this down. The Jets are the popular team. Everyone says, oh, well, Rodgers will get him. Okay, let's see what the Jets are going to do. And, of course, you're going to hear from the Saints, who had Derek Carr as his quarterback. But Derek Carr got hurt with his oblique yesterday. Is he even the quarterback? Is Davante Adams going to want to go there? I know that Jake Hayner also went to Fresno State. Oh, but that was probably 20 years later. So we will see where this landing spot is. But for everyone to say, yep, trade's going to get done today, I need to find a trade partner. And, guys, I don't know where that trade partner is right now.
The takeaway, Schrager says, according to his sources, the Ravens are absolutely not interested. But then again, lots of discussion on both sides here.
Yeah, it's very funny because we're getting, for sure, conflicting reports. My theory, and I can't prove this is just my hunch, is I feel like guys like Schefter are for sure talking to agents, right? And they want to keep out there that there are other teams that are interested to keep bidding alive and all that kind of stuff. But then you got like Brian Wacker, who was a Baltimore Sun reporter, and then Schrager, who is in touch with the Ravens. I'm wondering if they're more in touch with Ravens, and the Ravens are saying no, and then the agents are telling these other guys yes. So maybe that's why we're seeing it from both sides. And other things that I'm hearing, whether the Ravens are in or not. Josina Anderson said that even though Carr has the oblique injury, that doesn't change their interest in Davante. But then I saw another report that said, oh, that kind of like with the head coach firing and the injury, it does slow it down for Davante's side. So there's a lot of conflicting reports out there.
Oh, for the
so
Jets,
we'll just keep covering it until he's actually traded. Like anything could be possible.
One more quick hit, some super chats, and then we'll jump. And Gino getting stared down by Isaiah Likely.
But I like Isaiah. He's starting a trend here. We had that stare down in San Francisco. Then he did it to Gino. I kind of like it. Well, don't have to say much. Just, hey, I just caught it in your face. Just in case you didn't notice.
He's becoming a bad dude for this team for sure. Asmodeus with a super chat donation. We appreciate you guys. Jaden Daniels reminds him of Josh Allen. Yeah, that Mike.
Josh.
Yeah, that Mike says no digs said for sure about him winning MVP. I don't know. Oh, Trayvon Diggs, that clip. I don't know what that means. Thanks for the donation, though, Mike. Appreciate you. Cam says when Dean Pease was at New England, that defense was the truth. That was early in Tom Brady's career, so Pease has a lot of experience and rings for a reason. I think we're fully caught up to speed on Super Chats. One more from Asmodeus. There's always time to make positive changes, referring to my father's diet. You're hilarious, Asmodeus. And we appreciate all of you guys for being here with us today. I think
he's clarifying what maybe Diggs was saying in the clip. So we'll have to go back and watch.
Gotcha. Okay. Jaron Fonville, Christopher Saxey, we appreciate you both for being this episode's Patreon shout-out sponsors of ours. Thank you, guys, for your support. If you guys are interested in doing the same and you want to join the Vault Patreon community like Jaron and Christopher are, you can do so for as little as $1.99. It helps us out a lot on the back end. It's a great time of year to do so, being that we're entrenched and engulfed in football season. It's patreon.com/RavensVault podcast. We have a direct link to that site that's included in the show notes below. All good, partner?
All good. Breaking news on that one.
Yeah,
Woof.
great stuff. We will have that, by the way, if
We'll
you're
get
just
more on
tuning
that
in.
tomorrow.
We
Yeah.
will have a specific clip of that ready to go in short form. We're doing a little bit of that when we can, in terms of a lot of you guys will look at an hour plus worth of content. And you just have busy lives. I can't even click into it. Well, we're going to try to break down and give you more options for short consumption types of content for us when we can. So with that, thank you all for being here. We appreciate you. If you could like the video on the way out, it goes a long way on the back end in terms of discoverability and the analytical stuff that we always tell you about within YouTube and what we're building here. So thank you, partner. Thank you as always. Hope you guys have a great Wednesday. We will catch up with you in under 23 hours from right now for a Thursday Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. And for Sarah Ellison, I'm Bobby Trossett signing off. And as always, we appreciate you guys for being with us here inside the vault. Talk soon.